Opening day at Keeneland is Friday, April the 7th. So felt like we could dive into the Keeneland Friday card, take a look at these daily racing form, the DRF formulator past performances. Those are always my favorite. Those are the most helpful for me. We'll navigate through the card and we'll pick out some of the races where we have the strongest opinions along the way. So drf.com for all the help that you need for the past performances. And if you need a little bit more help, Friday morning at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, we have a live stream that's called This Weekend in Stable Duel. It's with myself, Matt DeSantis, and Barry Spears, and we will give out some of our best bets for Friday and for Saturday at Keeneland. We'll also give out some best bets for Friday and for Saturday, Santa Anita. We'll talk about the Stable Duel games and contests and all the details for those. And what's really cool about that show, it's called the No Chalk Zone. We only give out 5-1 and above. So we give out all of our best bets throughout the weekend and just horses that are 5-1 and above. On this show, I'll kind of navigate through most of the card, but let's start in race number 2. Race number 1 is a baby race, 4.5 furlongs. So not quite as much information to go off with a lot of first-time starters in there. But in race number 2, we kick off the early pick 4. And in race number 2, it's a maiden special weight for 3-year-old fillies. And they're going to be going 7 furlongs on the main track. Also, I'm going to look toward the outside. That's the number 11, Uppercase. So Uppercase debuted on August the 14th at Saratoga in the Bill Mott barn and got some action that day. It was only 3-1, and the race has come back very live. The winner of that race, Chocolate Gelato, came back and won the Grade 1 Frazette. Chocolate Gelato was one of the top betting choices in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Also, Take Charge Brianna was in that race, came out of that race to win a maiden special weight next out. And this filly has some ability. They've thrown her in stakes races a few different times. Interpolate was also in that race, came back to win their next start following. And this is a stakes winner who recently won the Ruthless. You also had Firing Bullets, who was in that race, who came back to win their next start, which was a 5-furlong turf stakes at Woodbine. So extremely live race for the debut for Uppercase, and just kind of got outrun a little bit early on. Didn't have the best of trips, was kind of in contention before backing up and just put a line right through it. When I see a horse finish so poorly, I'm not using that race really as a gauge, but long layoff to deal with. Uppercase shows back up on February the 15th at Turfway Park. Had a fine start, was about 4 lengths off, but ran into some traffic, was in between horses, had to tip to the outside, big 3-wide bid up to challenge, was just second best that day, and was second best behind a horse named Sunday Shoes. Footloose. Sunday Shoes came back to win a stakes race in her next start. So losing to a next out winner in both races, both next out stakes winners, Uppercase will finally get the chance to put 2 starts together in here. And I think a little more progression, stretching out from 6.5 furlongs to 7. Second start off that long layoff. Second time for the new connections. I like the 11 in here quite a bit. Uppercase, who's 8-1 on the morning line. If this horse is anything 5-1 plus, we'll be making a win wager there on the number 11, Uppercase. Moving along. Race number 3, not the strongest opinion in here. I did think that the 1 would be pretty tough. Really looks like the one to catch with the inside draw, some legitimate excuses, has faced some tough company in South Lawn and pretty mischievous, but you're not really going to get a whole lot of value there. And maybe you take a stand with the 1 instead of 1 or 2 of the others that could be shorter prices in here. Not the strongest opinion, but I do think this one will be able to have every opportunity to dictate the race from the inside. Moving along to race number 5. That's where we head next. This 5th race is a 6.5 furlong dirt race. It's a first level allowance. And you have some fillies, a couple that we've seen in stakes company last time out, like Positano Sunset. We saw Vava in stakes races the last 2. We also seen Peacock Lass in a stakes race. So we've seen some of these fillies try a little bit tougher company. And I thought this was a kind of a wide open race. The one who kind of was one that I would definitely want to include in here, turning back a little bit, is Ziorati. And again, not necessarily going to be giving you the the biggest prices in the world. So this won't be a race where I'm playing a whole heck of a lot this one to kick off the pick six. But we do have stronger opinions as we keep rolling along. Race number 6 is a 5.5 turf sprint. The number 2 Frozen Solid is really, really sharp. This filly has done like nothing wrong in her 3 races on the turf. Her first turf race was back in March of 2022, a little over a year ago. She was a good second that day, and that race was followed by a 10-month layoff. So she shows back up on January the 6th. She's making her first start as a 4-year-old, and she wins nicely. Her speed figures improve. She's really handy. And in that race, she beat a horse named Little Jewel, and Little Jewel came back and has won back-to-back races, was really impressive in winning a stakes races. This is the half sib to Little Mike. And Frozen Solid, when you watch her races, she just seems really handy. She had a good start. She was close up. She was third, about 2 lengths off. She weighted nicely. She angled around 3 deep. I think she's a really handy sort of filly. So Frozen Solid is 9-2 on the morning line. She's definitely going to be a horse that I build a lot of the exotics around in here, as money will come in on the 6 Her World for sure. And for Coffee Maker, at 6-5, we'll take a ton of money, likely going to be even money or less here. So if you're trying to beat the favorite, maybe you can look to a horse who has some upside. The 2 Frozen Solid. Moving along to race number 7, it's the Lafayette Stakes. So in this race, you have some really talented horses who maybe weren't quite ready for the Derby yet, and some of the bigger preps. Maybe those races are a little too far. A horse like Gulfport, super talented, multiple grade 1 placed. You have Lugan Knight, who maybe he just didn't like the sloppy track last time out. If you put a line through that form looks so much better. Hijazi is a $3.5 million purchase. And while he's only won 1 race, it's not as if his form is bad. He's a little quirky. He's kind of a big horse who just needs the right kind of ride and trip. He's not one that you can sort of start and stop on. This could be a perfect trip for him, just going 7 furlongs and trying to send him hard. If you're trying to play this race, I think the 5 Determinedly may be the value if you're looking to get around some of the others in here. I mean, I would throw Lugan Knight in too as a value play if you can just eliminate the Gotham. But Determinedly, same sort of thing. Let's just eliminate the Risen Star last time out. Put a line right through it. Showed speed going long, but the 1 1/8 was just a little too far, and the race was a little too tough. It's come back very live. We've already seen Angel of Empire come out of that race to win the Arkansas Derby. We've seen 2 Phils come out of the Risen Star to go win the Jeff Ruby Stakes over at Turfway, earning a big 101 buyer speed figure and winning that race. So we eliminate the last race for Determinedly, and then let's look at the form. Not bad at all. How about the November 26th race that sort of jumps off the page? Going 7 furlongs at Churchill, crushed by 7.25, sitting just off. And you start to dive into his overall form. He's been pretty consistent throughout. You don't see a ton of bad races. He just got run off the page in the Arabian Night race. No shame there. And I love horses turning back to 7 furlongs once they've shown a little bit of route speed and positional speed going longer. And we know he can pass horses. I think it's a really nice spot for Determinedly. I mean, Corona Bolson, obviously an obvious player. He's just got the 1 bad performance, and it was in the slop, and it was going long. It's really tough to knock his overall form. But if you're looking to wager on this race, I think the play is Determinedly. I'm not sure if I could play Hijazi. He's too short. Don't know if I could play Corona Bolt at that price. Lugan Knight, I could get talked into playing him. But I do think Determinedly in around that 5-1 price would be the best value in here. No real knocks on Hijazi. No real knocks on Corona Bolt. They wouldn't be a shock. I would probably prefer the 2 I mentioned to Gulfport. Just want to see the first race at 3 for Gulfport, and he gets the rail draw in here, which may put him in a really tough spot. So I'll just be watching him in this one. As we move to race number 8, it's the Transylvania. And the grade 3 Transylvania has some nice 3-year-olds in here. The horse who will likely be favored is Carl Spackler, who lost to Far Bridge in his debut. Far Bridge is a freak. So is Carl Spackler. They're two really, really nice horses. So expecting Carl Spackler to take a ton of money in here. He's 3-1 on the morning line. It'll probably be 8-5. If we're trying to play the race, how are we going to do so? I like Webslinger. So just kind of navigating through this big field, it looks like Wonderful Justice has some tactical speed, will want to be forwardly placed. You have Mi Hermano Ramon, who's stretching out from some quick sprints. I think they'll be forwardly placed in here. Mo Stash does his best running when he's close to or right on the lead. Candidate is going to be forwardly placed. I think the 9 Nagjarok is going to be forwardly placed in here. Mo Visitor, stretching back out from a sprint, wants to be forwardly placed. Even Carl Spackler from way out wide, and Dude in Colorado, I don't think they want to get hooked really wide. So they're going to have to make a decision. Do you want to be close up or do you want to take back? I would expect both of them probably want to be closer up than take way back and try to have to close from way, way out of it. The horse who should get the trip because of all of that is the 2 Webslinger. Look at his overall turf form. A bad race, not even a bad race, in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile turf. He was 11th. He was only beaten 4 lengths. He had a brutally wide trip from a tough draw that day. He comes back in his first start at 3 at Gulfstream in a first level allowance. He wins. And then last time out, let's watch this race on March the 4th. So Webslinger is the 4. Dude in Colorado is the 9. And they're both in this race. But the reason why I like Webslinger a little bit more than Dude in Colorado is because I don't know if Dude in Colorado is going to get as comfortable of a trip as he did. So look at Webslinger, the floor. Right after the break, he has to take up. So he's dead last. Not a great start. But he was able to recover pretty well. He settles in the 2 path. He's right back there, in the 7th spot, 7th of 8th, and he's about 6 lengths off or so. But look at where he is and compare that to Dude in Colorado. Dude in Colorado gets a perfect trip, sitting second in a race where they're not going all that fast. I just don't know if Dude in Colorado can get that same type of trip, whereas Webslinger should have a lot more pace in this race that we're talking about, the Keeneland race on Friday. So he should be able to get a little bit better of a trip. And keep in mind, Webslinger had that slow start where he was squeezed back a couple extra positions. So he's now forced to make a wide early move. Look at the 4 going 3 wide now, making that big early move. Now he's up to 4 wide, really nice energy. And he just can't get by a horse who gets a better trip than him. Really no knocks on this race at all. At the top of the lane, Webslinger is 4 wide and in between horses here, angling out. And once he straightens out, I think he really has some good, nice energy too. Look at Dude in Colorado. It's really good race riding by Irad here to sort of just shift out a little bit late when he could kind of feel Webslinger coming. He sort of shifts out a little bit, but Webslinger's still making up some ground and could get some more pace to run at in here. I like the 2 Webslinger. He is 5-1 on the morning line. Anything in that 7-2 plus range, I think is fair value on him. Race number 9 is the grade 1 Ashland. This is a really solid group lining up. You have, the 1, Pride of the Nile, be very happy to get away from FISA. Almost beat FISA a few starts back in the Starlet. Came back again. I thought was going to beat FISA in the Las Virgenes. And then in the Santa Isabel, didn't have the best of trips, Pride of the Nile. So comes out to Keeneland. You have Wonder Wheel, your Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies winner, who was a runner-up. Just kind of got caught behind some lone speed, a horse who made an early move on February the 11th, and Wonder Wheel and Julia Shining were both making their first start of the year. And so they could likely take nice steps forward, shaking some of the rust off after that first race. Because remember, for fillies like Wonder Wheel and Julia Shining, the goal wasn't winning the Suncoast. The goal was being ready to have your A effort come the Kentucky Oaks. So I'm expecting both of them to be sharper in here, both the 2 and the 4. I mean, the 3 horse comes off of a decent effort last time out behind Darth Vader. Had a slowish start, was outrun, was about 10 lengths off, then about 12 lengths off, and really got going late. Now we'll make the second start of the year, second off the bench. I could see the 3 being a horse you want to use in some exotics. I think for me, the way, Punch Bowl, obviously 2 for 2, no knocks on Punch Bowl, visually extremely impressive. But for me, like a horse, if you're looking to bet this race, might be Defining Purpose. So Defining Purpose gets away from wet paint the last 2 times. They were both on off tracks. So let's eliminate those races. Look at the way Defining Purpose was starting to progress leading into the Martha Washington and the Honeybee. She wins on December the 31st, final day of the year, by 5. Earns her best big speed figure ever. And so we would expect maybe a little bit of trajectory for her speed figures to continue to improve. Unfortunately, she didn't get the chance for that because her next 2 races were both on a wet track. If she catches a fast track, she may have a little bit of upside here. I'm going to use her in exotics. A big win on 12:31. Play her off that race with some upside trajectory, some upside improvement built into it. Hopefully getting a fast track. Defining Purpose, 15-1. Then to close out the card at Keeneland on Saturday, 1.125 turf race. The horse I like in here is the number 3, Idle Chatter. Let's watch this replay from the debut for Idle Chatter, where Idle Chatter was the number 6. And the debut was going 7.5 furlongs on the turf. Not an easy distance in which to debut. And Idle Chatter just misses the break. So your first time out, and you're already last. But recovered nicely, but then kind of moves into a little bit of traffic right afterwards. So they get her to settle at the rear. And she's about 6 or 7 lengths off early on, but she's saving ground nicely. As the race continues on, she's going to run into a little bit of traffic even more. And, you just expect that 7.5 furlongs first time out. She's now stretching out to 1.125. That second out improvement. They've continued to work her on the turf in between her first race and now. So she's had 4 more turf works. They had to tip her to the outside here because they don't want to get stuck in some traffic. So she makes an early move sort of to the outside to kind of get her in the clear to make sure that once the rally starts that she's not going to get stopped. And I thought she ran pretty well in here. She's still not quite on the screen. You're going to see her pop on in just a second and then start to make her rally as she's able to move through in between horses. She saves ground here. She gets a nice little opening, and then she's able to kind of navigate her way through some traffic up, not really traffic, just kind of in between horses up for the second spot. So I think Idle Chatter, little additional real estate. Idle Chatter is a very fair price on the morning line of 8-1. I thought more like a 5-1-ish shot in here. So Idle Chatter is a horse to include in some of your exotics there at Keeneland. Good luck on opening day. Hope all of you crush it. Remember, if you ever need any help preparing for the races, drf.com, daily racing form past performances. For me, it's the Formulator PPs. These are the ones that we've been looking at right here. Good luck on Friday. Make sure to give us a follow on social media. It's me, Gino B. Subscribe to the podcast. That's what G said. We'll have lots of videos and coverage just like this coming up for the big day this weekend at Keeneland, at Santa Anita, and at Aqueduct. Good luck.